So I've been in real estate for 18 years, and over those 18 years, I've gone through 2 property management companies, and more recently, probably in the last 7 years, we decided to hire our own in-house property management. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 things that really drove that decision for us and why we chose to fire our property managers and do it all in-house. So let's get into it. My first overall point is when you're hiring a property manager or when you're bringing it in-house, meaning they're either as a salaried employee or they're a contractor or a subcontractor of the corporation, you have overall more control over that property. You have more control over the communication, the tenants that you're picking, just back and forth communication with that contractor that you have hired, that property manager that's in-house. I find that the overall communication is a lot better. And that brings me to my next point. Now, my next point is when you hire a property management company, a third party, you're usually paying anywhere between, I've seen 8 to 11% of gross rents. Now, when you look at that at one property, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at it after buying multiple properties like we have, where you're owning 5, 10, 15, that can add up. Now, when I've compared and I've done a cost analysis where we decided to bring this in-house, where instead of paying a percentage of the profits, we just paid this person a salary, a regular salary on a monthly basis to take care of all the property. That didn't just drive our costs on the management lower, but it actually increased our cash flow because we weren't paying all these hidden costs that property management companies have. Not just that you're paying them 8 to 10% gross rents, you also have to pay additional costs when you have after-hour calls, or when your unit is being filled and now they're getting a new tenant, when they're doing a move-out inspection, when you're doing a move-in inspection. These are all additional costs that a real estate investor will have to incur that you don't think about. And I didn't really know about these either until I actually got in the game and I started looking at these sheets, right? Like the P&L, the profit and loss, and saying like, wow, look at the net cash flow on these deals, some of these properties that we own, where's this money going? And I soon realized that there was a lot of things that we didn't look at. But once we brought that in-house, we negotiated a salary with our current property management. It made a huge difference in what we were actually keeping in the corporation. And this leads me to my third point, and I talked about this in point number 1, is overall better communication. When you have a third property management company, there are so many places that the ball could be dropped. Maybe it's the tenant reaching out to the property manager, or property manager reaching out to the tenant, where they're trying to get a response for each other. Maybe there's a maintenance repair. Maybe there's a repair on foundation. There's a repair on the kitchen. There's a repair, the toilet needs to be changed. There's a leaky faucet. There's all these things where it can turn into, and what I've seen in my case is he said, she says, right? There's 3 people in this deal. If you think about it, you got your property manager, you got the tenant, and then you have you, the landlord, the owner, the investor. And so when we brought it in-house, we were able to tighten up our communication where it's essentially one person. There's a direct report where my property manager, whether it's a subcontractor or a salaried employee, they're reporting to me. There is no like 3 people. There's just myself. And because they work for us, there's a vested interest in that. There's a vested interest because they want to see us win, because they're part of our team. And if there is something that my property manager isn't getting to, the in-house person, well, guess what? The landlord can talk to me directly. And I know for a fact that because I have this rapport built with my property manager in-house, my communication is going to be better. And because the tenant, are not dealing with a huge multinational company or even a company that's managing 500 units and you're just one of those units, it can become very tricky. So again, keeping it in-house, I have found our communication to be a lot better. My next point is with a third-party property management company, the communication with the owner, the landlord, yourself, and the third-party property management company can get really disconnected, right? There's a lot of stuff that gets dropped. There's a lot of things I've had in the past where I'm really questioning myself. Did they really bring the handyman there? How long did they take to respond to that tenant? When the tenant's saying that they take a couple of days and the property manager is saying that, no, we were there the next day, right? Like, who's really telling the truth here? Unless you have some sort of log or you have some sort of system with them that you can look at those things. It's very hard. And what I have found is, even not just hiring one, but hiring a couple of property management companies, you're just a number. And that's how I have felt. And I'm not saying this about every property management company. I'm just talking about the ones that we have done, with the overall communication has not been there. And I also find that on the take, or just from the perspective of a tenant, it can be very frustrating, where they feel they're not being heard, their needs are not being met. But when they bring it in-house, or when we have brought it in-house, if they know within like 2 or 3 hours that my property manager in-house doesn't respond to them, well, they can just text me. They can text me, they can call me. And then guess what? Because I have that relationship with our employee, I can just get on the phone and say, hey, what's going on here? Like, are you busy? What's going on? You haven't responded. And all those things, it works a lot more efficient. There's just less overall moving parts. And my last point is, at the end of the day, whether you own 1 property, 5 properties, or even more, 10 plus properties, you are building a business. And what I have found is, being in this business, it's all about longevity. It's all about infrastructure. It's all about systems. So at one point, if you decide to get out of the business, having that system in place where you can bring in a potential buyer who buys all of your properties and say, by the way, I have been working on my own system. I have my own in-house property manager. We have not sourced this out like most investors have. We have it in-house, and these are some of the systems. This is some of our CRM. This is our follow-up system. This is how we respond to repairs, to maintenance requests. These are all the ways that we actually fill the unit, how we do our due diligence on getting the right tenant, checking their background. We do it in-house. It makes it more attractable to somebody that wants to buy your portfolio, to buy all your properties, when you can tell that person that you do it in-house. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you took these points and apply this and really start thinking. If you are out there and you have a third-party property management company, I encourage you, if you feel that, again, some of the challenges that I mentioned on the call you're facing, to bring that in-house, whether they're an employee or if you're starting out, whether you take, instead of paying them 10 or 11%, start them off at 7 or 8 or 9%, especially if they don't have enough experience. And so they can shadow you for the first little part. Then you can start them off at a lower percentage because they don't have all that training, and then eventually bring it in-house. And I know that if you make that decision like I have, and like many other people that I have trained to do, you will really, really see the benefits of that long term. We'll see you guys on the next video.